Film/Crew review. Extremely wicked and shockingly evil and vile and pretty bad.
Quite a bit nasty
movie
as well.
Hey team, Angus, Strachan here, and welcome to the Film Slice Podcast. I'm here, as always, with my co-host, King Diddly Widdly King Dogs.
Hi there.
And man formerly known as Brodiddly Doo Broadman
Richards.
This week he is known as
good old Ted.
Ted. We're in the room with Ted. Sure, okay, yeah, sweet. And this week we are reviewing the movie with a super long title.
Extremely wicked, shockingly evil and vile. Which is,
That's the one starring Zac Efron.
Efron.
This is the movie that I refer to as that Efron movie.
that Efron movie.
I didn't know
it's all about.
It's a sequel to High School Musical 2.
Oh, you've taken my bloody joke, mate.
Oh, sorry.
I had a good written down joke that I had later. You've taken my bloody joke.
It just popped into my mind. Anyway, K-Dogs, get us up with that IMDb summary.
Yeah, alright. Okay. Courtroom frenzy ensues and sweeps 1970s America when a young single mother reluctantly tips the attention of the widespread manhunt towards a longtime boyfriend, Ted Bundy.
Dun dun dun. Based on a true story.
Based on the true story.
Little biopic, I guess you call it.
Little biopic.
Yeah, sweet. All right. When'd you see the movie? What did you buy?
When did you see the movie? What did you think? Do you like the movie? None of the shit.
I saw the movie Saturday at home because it was on Netflix.
Yes, by the way, this is a Netflix movie.
Yep.
We didn't go to the
Netflix.
cinemas this week because Avengers is just absolutely dominating.
Yeah, no one's releasing anything else.
Yeah.
That being said, I was really disappointed to find out it wasn't a cinema film because I thought when I saw the trailer that it was going to be a cinema film. And I was like, it's really cool that Zac Efron's going to be like gone out there to take these really serious roles now. And then I found out that it was like a Netflix scene. I was like, that's less bold.
I have a feeling it did get a theatrical release, but in the States and not in like the main cinemas, like kind of like the Cinema
only in
Novas
Florida.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Only in Florida. They played one showing in Florida.
Yeah. Cool. And what did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was great. Loved it. I thought it was really good for what it was. It was more or less what I expected it to be, but it absolutely had room to be a lot worse. This hit the nail on the head for me. Yeah. Really liked
cool.
it.
Broadman, when did you see the movie? What did you bloody think?
I saw it less than an hour ago. And yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Pretty enjoyable. It's kind of like they framed it in an interesting way that was like, it's obviously based on a true story. Most people will know the story that this is based on. Good old Ted Bundy.
Good old Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
I mean, old Ted Bundy.
I'm going to stand over here next to Angus and not next to Brody.
Fair enough.
Next to Ted.
Well, they kind of framed it in a way that was like, made you like guess if he was guilty or not, which was an interesting way of
Definitely.
this film.
I really liked that. It was made in a way that if you don't know the story of Ted Bundy, even though that's all over Netflix right now, it's like the Ted Bundy tapes, but if you don't know anything, as just an audience member going in, until the very end, you plausible deniability to believe that he was completely innocent the whole way through that film, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
Really cool way
definitely.
to tackle the film.
It reminds me of another Netflix show called Making a Murder or Making a Murderer.
Oh.
And that's a documentary, but it does use that idea where you're not sure if who's right or who's wrong, or like, because in this movie they don't really paint the police and the justice system in a good light.
No.
Like it's very kind of balanced, which is what a lot of people have kind of started controversy over.
Yeah. Well, it's
which
like,
I guess we'll get into.
It takes place in the 70s, and it's like back when there wasn't as like great kind of like
wasn't as well renowned.
And so there is a lot of like kind of shady stuff happening, and it's like that's how they did stuff back then. So you both like kind of feel a little bit bad for him because he does get railroaded a bit, even though he did all these shockingly evil, vile and everything.
It's like it wasn't a fair trial, but he probably deserved it.
Yeah. But it's just like, if that happened now, it'd just be like that cannot happen now.
Yeah, definitely. And there's so many things. There's so many things in the film where you're like, surely they've got like cameras there or like, and it's just the technology is not there at the moment, and it's so frustrating to see like. Anyway, we'll get into it.
Yeah.
But
what'd you think, Angus? When did you see it, and did you like it, or what'd you think about it? Tell me all your thoughts, mate. But keep it brief, right? We're in a hurry. Chop chop.
just like Ted Bundy.
Chop, chop.
Oh no.
I saw it 5 minutes ago. It wrapped up.
Fair enough.
I watched it very recently, very recently. I didn't mind it. As you said, it did kind of keep me guessing. I didn't actually know that much about Ted Bundy. I knew he was a bad bloke, but I didn't I didn't know.
Straight from Angus's mouth, you've heard it here. Bad bloke. Ted Bundy. Bad bloke.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting, and not the way that I thought the movie would have gone.
Yeah.
Which was good. It kind of took me a bit by surprise. So yeah, that's what I think.
I watched this with the GF, and
Yeah.
she's right into all of this stuff, so she knew a whole bunch about
Crime
the Ted
and-
Bundy case and all of that sort of stuff. And one of the things that, from what she told me, I think this movie did really well is all of the public were actually really on side of Ted Bundy. Because although, like as you said, the justice system wasn't that well renowned at that point in time, and Ted Bundy was such like he was so charismatic on a camera, and so by the end of the case, it was like a 50-50 whether people actually believed he did it or not, until like the very end. And that's sort of what this film did really well is I'll get into it, but like you also, if you don't know a lot about Ted Bundy, would
be like,
either he'd like you'd be sitting next to someone and you'd both disagree on whether he did it or not, and that's really cool.
For when I was watching the movie, I'm like, Zac Efron wouldn't do that.
But would he?
My God.
God.
Well, I guess we'll get into it. Before we do that, lads, you know how every week I put up on Instagram and no longer Twitter what movie we're reviewing and ask our lovely slicers out there, our audience, what they thought of the film, and generally no one replies.
Yep.
Well,
Unless it was Endgame, in which
Unless it
case
was Endgame.
everyone replied.
that's it. Well, it's not Endgame, so we didn't get that many. I've got two. I've
got a few.
First one from Hooverman91.
Yep, fair enough.
This will be good.
Oh no.
He says, Zach Braff is great in this Bundy film. Love his ginger beer as well.
Nice.
Topic.
Thanks, Superman.
Oh,
Good on you, Hooverman.
useful as always.
And this is from not.filmslice.host,
man.
long-time listener. He says, Jolan sounds weird this episode. For some reason, he's listening live,
I
which
don't know how.
is
That's
great.
strange.
Kind of creepy, but
Almost
great.
as if he was in the room, standing specifically to my left.
There you go.
For those of you listening, Jordan is pointing at Angus.
No, I'm not. All right, heading over to Facebook. Over to Facebook.
Over.
We did get a few people writing in. So
Roger
first
that.
up, we have
Roger,
Shannon
Roger.
Vanessa. She says, I finished watching Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile about half an hour ago. I still feel unsettled. I felt unsettled throughout the whole movie. It was dark, intense, suspenseful, and in some parts, shocking. This movie did a fantastic job in reminding us and the audience that serial killers could be among us. They could be a friend, a co-worker, a family member. Again, I'm unsettled to my core. Zac Efron and Lily Collins both delivered their performances with strength and authenticity, and it was enjoyable to see Efron in a serious role for a change. Seeing the I See Dead People kid from The Sixth Sense was okay too, I guess.
I
Didn't realize it was him. The boyfriend guy.
Second boyfriend,
Yeah,
yeah.
the second boyfriend that comes from
Ah.
the kid from Sixth Sense.
Yeah,
Wow. Out of 10?
I only recognized him because of the "Where Are They Now" memes.
Oh, okay.
Of like how his face just hasn't changed. He's just got
I
a bigger body.
didn't recognize him until I read that message from Shannon like this morning.
Yeah.
And was like,
Oh, really?
I
"What
totally
is that
didn't
guy?"
guess that, yeah.
Yeah, no,
I
I picked
recognize
it straight away.
Clementine from Westworld as the friend of the one of the main characters,
And
which
then
was cool to see.
again, also from Michaela Milanovic Smith, we got good choice of actors, good costuming too, good match to. Sorry, there's no punctuation or grammar in this, so just give me a.
That's Jordan correcting
I think there's
someone on their
actually-
grammar there.
Good choice of actors, good costuming too, good match of real life, good use of real footage at the end. Could have been more factual, could have given victims a bit more recognition or something, comma. Like even their ages next to their names, mainly because in parts it felt like it was trying to make us believe he's actually innocent, instead play him as the victim. There's not a full stop there either, but I get what she's trying to say.
So what's she trying to say?
What she's trying, yeah, sorry. She thinks it was well done in terms of the performances and the costuming, but they could have given a little more credibility to the victims. 'Cause, yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that. The victims didn't get much of a say, though I don't think this movie was for... Like, I think this was largely a movie to demonstrate how serial killers aren't usually how they're portrayed in films, which is you always think of them as being these big, hairy, drooling guys holding like a massive steak knife or something. Whereas...
For those who are listening, Jordan is also pointing at Angus.
yeah.
Mate, I just went to the dentist. I can't close my mouth properly.
Angus, bad bloke.
Yeah, sweet.
All good
Okay,
points.
there we go. Thank you, Slices, for writing in. Make sure you hit us up on Instagram and Facey.
We really appreciate it. It's
yes,
really cool.
Definitely. All right, moving on. Would you recommend it? And who would you recommend it to? K-Dogs. Would you recommend it? Who would you recommend it to?
I would recommend it to anyone who's a fan of similar type shows like Mindhunter on Netflix. Also really great shows. If you like Mindhunter, you can probably like this. If you like this, you'll probably like Mindhunter because it does look pretty good. It's not your stock standard run-of-the-mill film. They actually put a bit of effort into it creatively and they did it well.
Yep, for sure. K-Dogs.
So I would really only recommend this to people that are fans already of the ZECU, the Zac Efron cinematic universe, because you're not really going to understand what's happening unless you've seen the prior films.
It really took a turn after Baywatch.
Yeah, so you've got to see like, High School Musical 1, 2, 3, 17 again, Baywatch, Greatest Showman, and then once you've watched that, you'll really understand sort of where Zac Efron is at in this movie. And so yeah, if you liked all of those... He pretty much plays himself. He's one of those actors who just plays himself. So I mean,
he played himself, but with the voice of Bradley Cooper in this.
Yeah, in this, it's just Zac Efron, but like he's killing people. So he's method acting clearly. But yeah, so I guess if you like those, you'll like this.
Killing it with his performance, am I right?
Performance skills
and his body.
He acted his little buns
and that
off.
10-minute of his ass, that shot that went for a long time of his ass.
Yeah, that was nice, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
quite
great.
good. Wonder how much money he got paid for that.
My girlfriend stopped talking to me mid-sentence when that happened.
Also paused the TV.
Yeah, paused
It didn't
the TV,
actually-
and then I was asked to leave the room for approximately
We actually
8.5
haven't resumed
minutes.
the conversation yet. It's been 7 hours.
So new wallpaper. I've been replaced. It was my ass, but
You gotta hear Zac Efron's ass better than Jordan's ass.
Angus, would you recommend it? And who would you recommend it to?
I definitely would
I think
recommend
Angus
it.
would recommend
It's-
Zac Efron's ass.
Yeah, I would
Who
recommend
wouldn't
Zac Efron's
recommend his ass?
As you said, anyone that really likes crime dramas or biopics, for sure. All right, let's head into the spoilers.
Spoilers.
You guys took way too long to get.
Oh, what a cool sound effect, Angus.
All right, we are in the spoiler section where we dissect and divulge everything about the movie. You've been warned.
You're like doing the floss.
Oh, no.
A lot of energy. He's doing the floss.
More of a cha-cha. I'm more of a cha-cha man. I like my
I like
dance
my men
moves.
like I like my cha-chas.
I like my dance moves from past decades.
Starting off with a cinema dick.
Yeah, starting off with cinema dicks, K-Dogs.
I have one. So,
Damn.
because we decided to watch this one on Netflix, we thought it'd be a good idea if we all watched it together.
Except I wasn't there.
So this morning, Angus came around and we and him were like butted up. We got like some things to eat, drink stuff, and we was like, I just had a general nice, friendly time. But Jordan didn't want to be a part of that, so he already watched it earlier.
I had watched the film
didn't-
prior to this podcast because
Didn't
I
care
am committed
about
and I put
watching
the
it
effort
with
in
his
this-
friends. So
I
Jordan Kane, cinema dick, once again.
Put the effort to
I
see
thought
the
you were
movie.
going to call me out because I did so much here. I'm like, here it comes. He said, Jordan. Like, oh.
So not only have you attacked me, but you've left Angus out.
No, Angus is fine. Angus, perfect cinema goer.
Oh, thanks, man.
great.
Thanks. K-Dogs and his cinema dicks.
No, actually, I'm a cinema saint because there's so many things where I like watching these films, and whenever it's like based on a true story, I spend a lot of it being like, I wonder if that actually happened though. And not knowing a lot about Ted Bundy, there's a lot of parts where we're in spoilers, aren't we? Yeah, where he like escapes from prison. I was like, did he actually escape from prison? And I was like, yeah. I was like, oh shit. I was like, there's no way he jumped from a 2-story building and ran off. She was like, no, he did. I was like, oh, that was really cool because sometimes I can get in my own head watching these films and be like, yeah, but that probably didn't happen.
Probably
And
didn't
it kind of
happen, yeah.
disappoints me, whereas having someone be like, no, that all
Actually,
happened quite realistically. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I watched this movie like expecting the truth, being like, yeah, this is like what actually happened. And when I was watching him jump out of the court, I was like, man, it takes a special kind of person to do that. Oh, no, he is a serial killer. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. now.
Very special.
He
That
is a
makes sense.
special kind of person.
I'm like, who would jump out of a window? Serial killer.
Serial killer.
that
Probably
makes
a
sense.
serial
Okay,
killer.
Cool, yeah. Cool. All right, let's move on into our most positive law. Okay, Dogs, what was your most positive thing about the film?
Most positive, although I liked...
most positive thing about the film is what he's about to say. Take it away.
Thanks, Brody.
Jordan's most positive thing about the film is what he's about to say. Take it away.
Thank you, Brody. Thank you.
His most positive thing is what he's about to say.
I think his most positive thing is thank you, Brody. So
fair enough.
I think his most positive thing about the film is Brody.
Fair enough.
Is that
My most positive
I can take away with
thing-
mine. So my most positive thing about this film is I actually really like the cinematography in this film because it was definitely above your basic standard. It was like, it looked good.
Yeah.
There was actually some interesting shots and compositions that was on screen. I really enjoyed that because most of the time, most people just kind of just walk it in when it comes to pretty much a lot of films. But it's like it was nice once again seeing a film that actually put a bit of effort into the creativity of this.
Did Netflix have a hand in it? Like, this isn't a Netflix original, is it? Like, it was just
I don't know.
It's a standalone movie that got picked up by Netflix.
Find out for you.
Yeah, because it'd be interesting. Because I think, to me, it actually looks like kind of a Netflix film. Like, it had that kind of cinematography, like high grade.
It had much better colors than most Netflix films has, where it actually like put a effort in to give it like a visual style.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
but yeah, it did have that kind of Netflix, like a bit more loose, kind of room for creativity.
Yeah,
than
definitely,
most other
definitely.
My most positive thing about the film
is me,
if I may, Brody. My most positive thing about the film is the casting. Although Ted Bundy wasn't nearly as attractive as Zac Efron, it was widely known and popularized that Ted Bundy was really charismatic and likable, and that is the sort of the main thing going for him that had people questioning whether he was a serial killer or not.
Yeah.
So in order for this film to work in the way they wanted to play it, as having the audience not sure whether he did it or not, casting someone like Zac Efron, who's usually well loved by everybody. Like, don't get me wrong, there's people that question his acting chops a lot of the time, but generally speaking, he's really charismatic and really good looking and really likable, and casting him as this character was perfect. Because even the audience is seeing Zac Efron, and that actually helped. Quite often, you not being able to look past the actor portraying a character is a problem, but for this, seeing Zac Efron deliver these lines and put in this situation really helps the audience to question whether he's capable of doing it or not. It really hammers home that you can be good looking and charming and charismatic and a total psychopath. And that's what the movie was trying to say, and that casting was the icing on top of that cake that nailed home.
And there's quite a few like big name actors in there as well. Like, you've got Zac Efron obviously, but
John Malkovich.
We
had Sheldon from Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. Like, there's a
number of people that I recognize from all over. Like the lawyers, a bunch of the lawyers were really familiar and recognizable.
And of course, the most famous person, the kid from Sixth Sense.
Success.
Yeah.
Of course.
Amazing.
Interesting that it started to really bring the Sixth Sense into the ZECU as well. Didn't think they'd be merging that. They've clearly taken a page out of like M. Night Shyamalan's book and thought, you know what, let's just put these two great films together in the and clearly it worked just as well as it did when M. Night Shyamalan did it with Glass.
I would have absolutely loved if the twist at the end was the girlfriend was dead the whole time. And the kid's like, the guy from Sixth Sense just like, my God. It
Girlfriend's dead the
happened
whole
again.
time. Yeah, and the kid's like, I still see dead people. I don't know what it is.
And then Samuel L. Jackson comes out in a wheelchair. and it's like, oh shit! It's a sequel to Glass!
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, jeez.
My favorite part about the film was, I think, the way that it told the story. We kind of touched on it already, but you'd say that you see the events unfolding from the girlfriend's perspective.
Yeah,
like, even though Ted Bundy is the main character,
and the media's perspective as well, like a general someone that would view just the media.
Yeah, definitely. Like, there's no real scenes of Zac Efron actually committed. I shouldn't say Zac Efron.
No. There's no real footage of Zac Efron killing people. That's true.
Yeah, like there's no gratuitous.
You don't get anything
scenes,
from his perspective. I think there's a few scenes where he's being pulled over by police in the cars, and then there's maybe one or two scenarios where he's talking just to his counsel, like his lawyers.
Yeah,
Outside
yeah.
of that, every time you see him doing something, there's someone else in the room, and you're usually witnessing it from their perspective.
Yeah,
which is
definitely.
really cool.
It's really well done.
Yeah.
It also makes you feel like all the scenes where even if when he's by himself, it's all made in a way where that could just be like after the fact of how people remembered it and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
like when he's breaking out of prison, he cuts the hole in the roof of his cell. He like climbs out and everything, and he escapes from prison. But it's like even though he's by himself in that room, we know that because after the fact, like detectives went in there and it's like we found this like small saw that he made. From working like down in the basement and stuff, and it's like he cut this hole, and that's how he escaped.
Yeah.
And so it's like even there's no part where it's just Ted Bundy where it's just information that they couldn't have had.
They couldn't have had on own.
It's all stuff that we like know.
Someone
And
has
so-
to have witnessed and documented this particular interaction.
So like when he's
in
being
order
pulled over
to-
by the police, it's like the police officer would have said, so he got out of his car, this is what he was saying, and then he hit me in the gut and he ran away.
Yeah.
And it's like stuff like that. There's never a moment where it's just Ted Bundy by himself, like committing a crime or doing something that that could be completely false.
Yeah.
And what's fantastic about that also is you notice that when he escapes from prison, 2 weeks almost immediately pass because we don't know what he did in that 2 weeks specifically, so they didn't show us 2 weeks of what he was doing.
Yeah.
Because we weren't there, people don't know exactly what he did, so they just didn't show it.
Yeah.
They showed it from everybody else's perspective. He was gone for 2 weeks and all we had was media talking about it. And that was it. Leaning into the negatives a bit.
Go for it.
Would have preferred to have...
Don't lean, just fall in. Fall straight in.
I would have really preferred for...
Thank you for committing to
yeah,
that bit.
you're welcome. I would have really preferred to see bystanders at home watching news or witness like debates at home, or just because we get a few interviews, but the only interviews we really get within the film are like the young girls. It's like, I think he's hot or something like that. Like that does a good job of portraying some of what people thought, but I also would have liked the people that thought he was guilty going through what it's like to live in a town where people are going missing and Ted Bundy has escaped.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I think I would have really liked to know what it was like to live in that time with a character like Ted Bundy, who is so consistently murdering people.
Yeah.
My other negative is the ending. I think this movie was going to go one or two ways from the get-go, which is either it was going to end without anyone... without the movie telling us whether he did it or not, or it was going to end with them finally giving us an admission, whether it was an actual admission from him or just proof. And we get that scene where he writes hacksaw on the glass, and it's really chilling. And during that moment, we get a small flashback of him clubbing like one woman over the head.
Yeah.
I would have really liked a bit more footage. Like, I know that we weren't there and we didn't see it, and that's contrary to what we were saying in the positives, but I really would have liked some more insight to the heinous things he did, just to really nail the contrast of how we've seen him through the whole film. In contrast to all of the horrible things. Like, I'm not saying I wanted gore and brutality. I don't want to actually see him doing things. I just wanted, even if it was a montage of him like dragging someone, kicking and screaming or anything like that, just something slightly more than we got would have just hammered that contrast for me a bit more.
I probably would have gone on the opposite end. I think that last scene shouldn't have been in. I think they should have. I think they should have cut it out completely and it just finish on hacksaw, because then it's still like, well, I mean, he's now admitting to it, but you don't have to now go back and see the heinous things that he did, because the whole idea is that
your imagination is much worse than anything they could have showed you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so, I mean, either of the two ways, but I think the way that the movie kind of played out, it would have been really good if it just ended on the hacksaw.
It feels like they didn't quite commit one way or the other, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, I really would have liked them to either go sort of, you don't know, or this is what he did. Look at the contrast.
Well, now that we're nestling into the old negatives, I would like to... I think my negative for this film is a bit odd. There's nothing specifically bad about this film. I just know that if we weren't seeing this for the podcast, I wouldn't have watched this film.
Yeah.
And especially after watching it, I'm now like, oh yeah, I definitely wouldn't have been interested in watching this film, because the whole kind of like film TV show about serial killers, I really love that idea. Like, some of my favorite shows are the first season of True Detective, which is incredibly good.
Yep.
First season of Mindhunter was also absolutely incredible.
Really strong.
I far prefer following detectives struggling to like find out who the villain is, and then like either eventually prevailing or even failing. I like kind of open-ended endings and stuff like that. But I never would have watched like a character piece on a serial killer that didn't have any information about the crimes, and it was like mainly took place in like the courtroom.
Yeah.
And then it's like that's
a character piece.
Yeah, that sort of stuff really doesn't interest me. And so, like, I think my main negative is this: just that I don't think this film is like
wasn't marketed very well. And
I don't think this film was like or even is going to be marketed very well. I don't think a lot of people are going to watch this. I think people will be much more interested in watching either just like a documentary about Ted Bundy that just gives you
Ted Bundy
all of
tapes
this,
are also on Netflix.
the specific facts, because like Ted Bundy tapes is on Netflix, or watching a completely theatrical thing where you don't know what happens, because that's far more interesting.
Yeah.
So my main negative is just that I have no like want to watch this film, and like even while we're watching, I was just like, I wish I was viewing this from a different perspective.
I guess besides the fact that the name is unrememberable.
Yeah, that's definitely a word.
Forgettable.
Forgettable.
Is it
No,
another word?
Brody.
Unrememberable.
Unrememberable.
Yep.
Go on.
Synonym. Besides that, my biggest negative was just a few.
Zac Efron's ass didn't linger long enough on it.
Yeah, no, I would have liked a bit more nudity. No,
Yeah.
no, I think one of my biggest ones was just some technical stuff, like kind of right at the start where he meets his girlfriend and they have a kid. There's like this kind of found footage of like, you know, the 70,
it's like it's in like
4:3.
4:3.
Yeah, like different aspect ratio, like kind of home movie kind of thing, which I like. Like I like that they incorporated that. The only problem was that it was a floating camera, so all three characters that were living in that house were all in frame.
Yeah.
Like, well, who's
on
holding the camera then? Kind of thing.
Why didn't I notice that?
Stuff like
that's something I should have definitely questioned. Who took that photo?
yeah, exactly. And like they like smile
Probably
at the camera and everything, but
from a
like,
timeline.
Yeah, so it's just like small technical things like that.
There were a couple of really weird cuts in there where they were trying to do like a cut from like a happy moment to like kind of like a confronting moment, but they just missed the cut just a little bit, so it just like hovered on one thing a little bit longer than the other, and so the cut was just a little bit strange. I noticed that, especially in the first half of the film, there are a number of cuts like that, and I was like, huh.
Before we wrap it up, let's just I just want to get your quick opinion on kind of what the media have been saying lately about Zac Efron and the movie, and saying that like they're kind of idolizing Ted Bundy. Do you think this movie does in fact kind of like paint him in a more heroic light than
I think
probably
it paints him in the light that
he was
painted in, because like as Jordan said earlier, in a way, like half of America thought he was innocent and he was a really charismatic and nice guy, and this film just shows them how they looked at him, right?
Look,
and it's like, and it's like, and you can't be really wrong about that, because we have evidence of like. And there's like interviews with people that say that they loved him when he was on trial and stuff like that, complete random strangers.
And even when you see the footage at the end of the film, you are charmed by like even watching him when the guy's talking about the subpoena and he's standing next to him and like, oh, it's a subpoena, we're gonna do that, you're gonna read it to me. Like even that part of you watches that and forgets that he's a crazy serial killer.
Yeah, and you just like, and it's just like, oh, he's just another guy.
In terms of whether
and so I think that did a great job at making you interact with him in the same way that so many Americans interacted with him in the 70s.
Yeah. I'd say
if they just cast him as just like a putrid murderer, it would also be accurate as well from the other side of America that just hated him for the murderer he was, right? So it's like, either way they would have been correct.
I don't think there's a single person that's watching that.
Or is a single person that's like, oh, who would glorify a serial killer from the 70s? Who would do that? And then it's like, well, it actually happened.
Most of America during the 1970s did that.
Yeah, and continued to this day. They talk about Ted Bundy all the effing time. It's like, in like, no matter what, they talk about Ted Bundy
it's not just him,
as a celebrity.
Jesse James, John Dillinger, we have Ned Kelly, like, all of these people, like, factually broke the law. But
Bonnie and Clyde,
yeah, we idolize them for different reasons, whether it's because they stood up to authority or because they did what they thought was right, or just because for some reason the media decided to run with this charming
Character.
so that they could get ratings, which is clearly what they did. But yeah, I don't think this is in poor taste at all. No. I think this is just honest and true and accurate. And for people that are uneasy by that, you should be. That's the point of the movie.
That's the point.
It's uneasy. It's uneasy to know that this character can be that likable and that heinous.
Yeah, cool. Sweet. All right, that's our thoughts on...
That's our thoughts!
The movie.
The Zac Efron Ted Bundy
Oh,
movie.
it's the horrible case of
the terrible
Benjamin Button.
And not good person. Cool. All right, next week we are reviewing...
A film by the name of...
Detective
Jordan,
Pikachu.
Take it
What's coming out next week?
Detective Pikachu.
Detective Pikachu.
All right, we're
Starring Ryan Gosling.
the goose. He's got the goose.
From the famous, obviously, like everybody's kid's favourite show, Digimon.
Yes. Yeah. Kind of just swapped it around for
Digimon,
the theatrical...
Technical Monsters or something like that.
Yeah, Electrical Monsters, I think.
Electrical Monsters, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, or abbreviated as usually to DBZ.
Yeah.
Card game, I think it was based on. It's based on a card game.
Yeah. It was like I think it started off as more of a Monopoly.
Yeah.
I thought it was like the spinning top things. You know, the
Tazos.
fake blades
Tazos.
or man blades, May blades. I can't remember.
Man blades.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the movie based on Man Blades. Anyway, we'll see
okay, we're
then.
watching that one. Okay, bye.
Detective Pikachu.
Thank you for listening to the Film Slice Podcast. You can reach us on Instagram, you can reach us on Twitter, you can reach us on Facebook, YouTube, all that jazz. Make sure you hit us up for our next podcast. Cool. All right. Bye.
Ciao.